I grew up working with engines and grease under my fingernails. The smell of motor oil always felt like home. When I met Natalie at that charity fundraiser, her broken-down BMW bringing this beautiful lawyer into my life, I never imagined I would be good enough for someone like her. 2 amazing years later, I spent 6 months saving for the perfect ring. When she said yes to my proposal at that fancy restaurant downtown, I thought my life was complete. But something changed after I put that ring on her finger. I never expected the conversation that would turn my world upside down. Before I tell you about the biggest shock of my life, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss more real stories about love and betrayal like this one. I was raised in a small town where hard work was valued above all else. My father was a mechanic before me, teaching me to fix my first engine when I was just 12 years old. By 16, I was helping him on weekends at his shop, and after high school I went straight to work rather than college. Some might call that settling, but I knew what I loved. After apprenticing for 8 years and building my reputation, I saved enough to open my own auto shop. Liam's Auto Repair became known for honest work at fair prices. My customers trusted me, often bringing homemade cookies or inviting me to family barbecues. I might not have had a college degree or wore suits to work, but I was proud of what I built with my own 2 hands. My hands were always stained with grease, no matter how much I scrubbed them. They were calloused from tools and occasionally scarred from repairs gone wrong. But these hands made a good living, allowed me to buy my small house, and kept me independent. I never felt ashamed of them until I met Natalie. It was at a community fundraiser for the local hospital. Natalie had pulled her BMW into the parking lot when it started making a concerning noise. I happened to be walking by when she got out, looking frustrated and confused. "Car trouble?" I asked. She looked up slightly, startled. "Yes, this stupid thing just started making the most awful sound. I am already late for the event." I introduced myself and offered to take a quick look. Within 5 minutes, I identified a loose belt that was easily fixable. She was impressed by how quickly I diagnosed the problem. "You must be pretty good at what you do," she said with a warm smile. "I get by," I replied. "I own Liam's Auto Repair downtown." Her eyes widened slightly. "Wait, you are Liam? My colleague Thomas swears by your shop, says you are the only mechanic in town he trusts with his Porsche." That broke the ice. Natalie was stunning in her formal dress, clearly educated and sophisticated in a way I was not. She worked at Patterson & Wright, one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. When she handed me her card and suggested I call her sometime, I was shocked. Our first date was at a casual pizza place. I was nervous about taking her somewhere too fancy, worried I would use the wrong fork or say something stupid. But Natalie was surprisingly down to earth, laughing at my jokes, and seeming genuinely interested in my stories about the auto shop. "I think what you do is amazing," she said. "You actually fix things. You solve real problems. Most of my day is pushing papers and arguing about technicalities." Her words made me feel 10 feet tall. As the weeks turned into months, our relationship grew deeper. We came from different worlds, but somehow that made it more exciting. I introduced her to fishing at my favorite lake, and she took me to my first symphony. I taught her how to change her oil, and she helped me understand the basics of contract law when I needed to renew my shop's lease. My friends were skeptical at first. "She is way out of your league, man," my buddy Jake said. "What does a fancy lawyer want with a grease monkey like you?" But when they saw how she looked at me, how she squeezed my arm when I told a story, they understood this was real. Meeting her friends was more challenging. At cocktail parties with her colleagues, I often stood awkwardly in the corner, unsure how to join conversations about summer homes and investment portfolios. Some of her friends were kind, asking genuine questions about my business or classic cars. Others barely concealed their surprise that Natalie was dating someone who worked with his hands for a living. Natalie always defended me. "Liam is the most honest, hard-working man I have ever met," she would say proudly. "And he can fix anything." In those moments I felt worthy of her. After 2 years together, I knew she was the one. I could not afford the kind of ring her colleagues' wives wore, but I saved for months to buy something special. I worked extra hours on weekends, took on restoration projects, and cut back on expenses. Finally, I had enough for a 1-carat diamond set in white gold. It was not extravagant, but it was beautiful and represented everything I had to give. I planned the proposal carefully. We had dinner at Castellano's, the fanciest restaurant in town, where we had celebrated her promotion to senior associate. I was so nervous I could barely eat my steak. When the dessert arrived with the ring balanced on a chocolate sculpture, I dropped to one knee. "Natalie, you have brought more happiness into my life than I ever thought possible. You are brilliant, beautiful, and somehow you love me despite all my flaws. I want to spend every day trying to make you as happy as you make me. Will you marry me?" For a terrible moment, she just stared at the ring, and I thought she was going to say no. Then tears filled her eyes and she nodded. "Yes, Liam. Yes, I will marry you." The restaurant erupted in applause. I slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and when I kissed her, I felt like the luckiest man alive. That night, as we lay in bed planning our future together, I had no idea that everything was about to change. The first signs were subtle. Natalie began working later at the office, often not coming home until 8 or 9 at night. She said her firm was considering her for a junior partner position, a huge step up that required proving herself. I supported her completely, making sure dinner was ready when she got home and listening to her talk about her cases. "You do not have to wait up for me," she would say. "I know you have to be up early for the shop." "I do not mind," I would reply. "I like seeing you, even if it is just for an hour before bed." She would smile, but sometimes it seemed forced. Our physical relationship began to change, too. She was often too tired or too stressed. When we did make love, it felt mechanical, as if she was just going through the motions. Whenever I brought up wedding plans, Natalie would deflect. "Let us just enjoy being engaged for a while," or "We have plenty of time to plan." I started to wonder if she was having second thoughts, but pushed the worry away. She was just busy with work. 3 months after our engagement, Natalie's law firm brought in a new partner from New York. Craig Jefferson was everything I was not. Tall, impeccably dressed, with degrees from Harvard and a family lineage in law. Natalie mentioned him casually at first, just another colleague. "Craig has some interesting ideas about restructuring the corporate division," she might say over dinner. Then it became more frequent. "Craig thinks I should focus more on environmental law. He says that is where the big cases will be in 5 years. Craig invited me to sit in on the Wilson negotiation. Such an amazing learning opportunity. I tried not to be jealous. This was her career, and mentorship was important. But then came the late-night texts. The calls during dinner that made her step outside to talk. The work events where spouses were not really necessary. One Saturday morning, Natalie was still asleep when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Half awake, I glanced at it, not meaning to snoop. The text preview showed Craig's name and the words, "Looking forward to seeing you later. Our secret spot at 1. My stomach dropped. I put the phone down and went to make coffee, telling myself it was innocent. A work meeting, perhaps. But why the secrecy? When I asked her about her plans that day, Natalie was vague. "Just some work stuff I need to catch up on. Probably heading to the office for a few hours." With Craig, I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Her head snapped up. "What? No. Why would you ask that?" "No reason," I said, but the lie hung between us. That evening, I tried to talk to her about our future, hoping to reconnect. "I was thinking maybe next spring for the wedding. Your favorite flowers will be in bloom," Natalie sighed. "Can we not talk about this right now?" "I am exhausted from work. We never talk about it," I said. "Are you having second thoughts?" "Of course not," she replied too quickly. "I just want everything to be perfect, and right now work is so demanding." I decided to make more effort. I researched her cases so I could ask intelligent questions. I surprised her with her favorite meals. I even bought tickets to the opera, though classical music put me to sleep. Nothing seemed to bridge the growing distance between us. The real change came when Natalie invited me to her firm's holiday party. In previous years, she had been proud to introduce me to everyone. This time was different. "This is Liam," she would say to new colleagues, then pause awkwardly before adding my fiancé. "He works with cars. Not he owns his own successful auto repair business. Not he is the best mechanic in the city. Just he works with cars, said with the same enthusiasm as announcing I collected lint. Later that night I overheard her talking to a female colleague by the bar. He is really sweet, Natalie was saying, and so good with his hands. They both laughed in a way that made my cheeks burn. But seriously, her friend asked, do you not worry about, fitting into each other's worlds, long term? Natalie hesitated. Sometimes. But he is comfortable, Safe. Safe. Not exciting, not ambitious, not intellectually stimulating. Just safe. The word echoed in my head for days afterward. The week before everything fell apart, I noticed Natalie had become obsessed with her appearance. New clothes, new hairstyle. Even a subtle change in how she spoke, using fancier words and dropping references to books and films I had never heard of. She was transforming into someone else, someone who fit better into Craig's world than mine. I tried one last grand gesture. I closed the shop early on a Tuesday, her least busy day, and prepared her favorite meal of shrimp scampi, with fresh bread and a bottle of expensive white wine I could barely afford. I set the table with candles and put on the jazz music she loved. When Natalie walked in, she seemed surprised, but distracted. "What is all this?" she asked. "Just wanted to do something special for you," I said, pulling out her chair. Throughout dinner, she checked her phone repeatedly. Our conversation was stilted, full of long silences and half-hearted replies. I reached for her hand across the table, but she pulled away to answer a text. "Is it Craig?" I finally asked. Her eyes flashed with something like guilt. "It is work, Liam. You know how busy things are right now." "It seems like things are always busy when it comes to Craig," I said. "Do not start this again," she snapped. "You are being paranoid." I knew then that something was very wrong, but I was not prepared for just how wrong things would get. 2 nights later, Natalie came home even later than usual. I was already in bed, but not sleeping. How could I sleep with the growing knot of dread in my stomach? She sat on the edge of the bed and turned on the lamp. "Liam, we need to talk." Those 5 words that never precede anything good. I sat up my back against the headboard, heart pounding. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about us, about our future," she began. Her voice was measured, like she was presenting a case to a jury. "I love you, but I feel like I am changing, growing. My world is expanding in ways I never expected." I said nothing, waiting for the blow I knew was coming. "I have been reading about alternative relationship structures," she continued. "Modern couples are exploring options beyond traditional monogamy." "What are you saying?" I asked, though I already knew. "I am suggesting we consider an open relationship." She said it so matter-of-factly, like suggesting we try a new restaurant. The room seemed to tilt. "An open relationship," I repeated. "You want to sleep with other people. It is not just about sex," she said quickly. "It is about emotional and intellectual connections, too. Different people fulfill different needs in our lives. And I am not fulfilling all of yours," I said flatly. Natalie sighed. "It is not a reflection on you, Liam. It is about my personal growth. There are aspects of my professional world that you cannot really understand or participate in." "Like Craig?" I asked. She flinched. "This is not about any specific person, but it includes him," I pressed. After a long pause, she nodded. "Yes, Craig and I have a connection. We understand each other's ambitions, the pressures we face." My mouth went dry. "Have you already been sleeping with him?" "That is not the point of this conversation," she evaded. "It is exactly the point," I said, my voice rising. "Have you been cheating on me?" "I have not acted on my feelings," she said carefully. "That is why I am bringing this up now. I want to be honest about what I need." Something about her phrasing made me suspicious. I got out of bed and picked up her phone from the dresser. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Being honest about what I need," I replied, entering her passcode. She had never changed it for my birthday. "Give that back." She lunged for the phone, but I turned away. It took less than a minute to find the evidence. Messages between her and Craig going back months. Photos that made me sick to my stomach. Plans for meetings at hotels. References to things they had already done together. "You have not acted on your feelings," I said, my voice shaking as I handed back the phone. "You have been sleeping with him for months." Natalie's face crumpled, not with shame but with anger. You had no right to look at my private messages, and you had no right to betray everything we built together, I shot back. Built together, she laughed bitterly. What exactly have we built, Leah May? Life where I support all your dreams, while compromising mine. Where I have to explain to my colleagues why my fiancé cannot discuss anything more complex than carburetor repair. Her words cut deep. Is that how you see me? As some uneducated grease monkey? No, but you have to admit, we come from different worlds, she said. Craig understands the pressure I am under. He challenges me intellectually. We speak the same language. And what language is that? Entitlement, dishonesty. Natalie stood up, pacing the room. This is exactly why I suggested an open relationship. You could never understand my world. So in this open relationship, I said slowly, you get to sleep with Craig and I get, what exactly? She hesitated. Well, you would be free to pursue others too. I laughed without humor. Right. Because so many women are lining up to date a mechanic, right? Is that what you and your lawyer friends think? That is not what I meant, she said. But her expression told me otherwise. Yes, it is, I said. You think no one else would want me because I am just a mechanic, that I should be grateful you even look at me at all. You are twisting my words, she protested. Am I? Then tell me honestly. If I came home tomorrow and said I was sleeping with someone else, would you be okay with that? Her silence was answer enough. This is not about an open relationship, I said finally. This is about you wanting permission to cheat while keeping me as a backup plan. Why even stay engaged to me at all? Natalie looked down at her ring. I do care about you, Liam. You have been good to me, and my parents really like you. I see, I said, a cold clarity washing over me. I am the safe choice. The good guy you settle for while having fun with someone more exciting. That is not fair, she protested. No, what is not fair is lying to someone who loves you. What is not fair is making me feel like I am not good enough, because I work with my hands instead of shuffling papers in an office. It is not just about your job, she said, but I could tell she was lying. It is about ambition. Craig wants to make partner by 40, open his own firm by 45. What do you want? To fix cars forever. What I want, I said quietly, is someone who respects me. Someone who does not think she is better than me because of her job title or education. Natalie sat back down, her expression softening into something like pity. I do respect you, Liam, but we have to be realistic about compatibility. Craig is just more appropriate for where my life is headed. More appropriate, I repeated. Because he wears suits and went to Harvard. Because he understands what it takes to succeed in my world, she insisted. I need someone who can be a true partner in every sense. The final blow came when she looked directly into my eyes and said, I need a man who can take me where I want to go in life, not someone who just gets his hands dirty with motor oil. In that moment, I saw her clearly for the first time. Not the woman I thought I loved, but someone who had been measuring me against her idea of success and finding me wanting. Someone who valued status over character, appearances over substance. I think you should leave, I said. This is my apartment too, she protested. I will go. Then I replied already, pulling clothes from the dresser. I cannot stay here tonight. As I packed a bag, Natalie tried a different approach. We do not have to make any rash decisions. We can still make this work. Keep the engagement for now. For appearances, I stopped and stared at her. For appearances, so your family and friends do not know you are cheating. So we have time to figure things out. She amended. Maybe this is just a phase. A phase, I echoed. Is that what Craig is? A phase? She did not answer. I zipped up my bag and walked to the door. I will come back for the rest of my things tomorrow. You can keep the ring. Sell it and buy yourself something more appropriate. That night I stayed at Jake's place, lying awake on his couch as my entire world collapsed around me. Not just losing Natalie, but losing the future I had imagined. The home we would build, the family we might have had. But most painful was losing my belief in myself. Had I always been a joke to her? Just a placeholder until someone better came along? Was I really so inadequate because of my job? As the sun came up, I made a decision. I would not let Natalie, or anyone else, make me feel ashamed of who I was or what I did for a living. It was time to remember my own worth. The next morning I called Natalie and asked her to meet me at my shop instead of the apartment. I wanted home field advantage for what I needed to say. When she arrived, she looked surprised to find me in my work clothes underneath a classic Mustang I was restoring. "Why did you want to meet here?" she asked, wrinkling her nose at the smell of oil and metal. I rolled out from under the car and stood up, not bothering to clean my hands. "Because this is who I am, Natalie. This is what I do, and I am damn good at it." She shifted uncomfortably. "Liam, about last night. I think we both said things in the heat of the moment." "I meant everything I said," I replied calmly. "And I think you did too. That is why I asked you here." I walked to my office and retrieved a small box from my desk drawer. Inside was the engagement ring she had left on the nightstand. "I do not want to sell it," I said, handing it to her. "It represents something that was real to me, even if it was not to you." "Liam, please," she began, tears forming in her eyes. "We can work through this. Maybe couples counseling." I shook my head. "No, Natalie. I deserve better than being someone's backup plan or charity case. I may be just a mechanic to you, but I am honest. I do not betray the people who trust me." "It was not like that," she protested. "Craig and I just connected on a different level." "On the level of lies and sneaking around," I asked. "Is that the sophisticated world you prefer to mine?" She flinched. "You are being cruel. No cruel is making someone believe you love them while you are sleeping with someone else. Cruel is treating someone like they are beneath you because of their job." Just then the shop door opened and Craig walked in. He looked exactly as I had imagined, tall, well-dressed, oozing confidence and privilege. "Natalie, your assistant said you would be here." He glanced at me with barely concealed disdain. "Is everything okay?" "Everything is fine," I answered before she could. "I was just telling Natalie that our engagement is over." Craig had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Perhaps I should wait outside." "No need," I said. "I am sure you two have plenty to discuss. Wedding plans, perhaps." Natalie looked mortified. "Liam, please." I turned to face Craig directly. "You know I spent years feeling insecure about not having a fancy degree or an impressive title. But at least I never had to steal another man's fiancée to feel good about myself." Craig's face flushed. "You do not know anything about our relationship." "I know it was built on lies," I replied. "Not a great foundation." He took a step toward me, but I did not flinch. "I fix broken things for a living," I said quietly. "But some things are not worth fixing." I turned back to Natalie. "I hope you and Craig will be very happy together in your appropriate, compatible world. I will have my stuff out of the apartment by the end of the week." As they left, Natalie looked back once, her expression a mix of regret and relief. I felt something shift inside me, a weight lifting. For the first time since our engagement fell apart, I could breathe again. The next few weeks were not easy. I moved into a small apartment above my shop. I threw myself into work, staying late into the night, working on cars. My friends worried about me, especially Jake, who kept trying to set me up with his wife's single friends. "You need to get back out there," he insisted. "Show Natalie what she is missing." "This is not about Natalie anymore," I told him. "This is about figuring out who I am without her." And slowly I did. I remembered why I loved being a mechanic. The satisfaction of diagnosing a problem no one else could figure out. The gratitude in a customer's eyes when I saved them from being overcharged. The respect I had earned in my community for honest work. 6 months after the breakup, something unexpected happened. A local technical college reached out to me about teaching a night class on automotive repair. At first I laughed it off. "I am not a teacher," I told them. "You are exactly what we need," the department head insisted. "Someone with real-world experience who can mentor the next generation." Reluctantly, I agreed to try it for 1 semester. To my surprise, I loved it. My students were diverse young people looking for a trade, middle-aged folks, changing careers, even a few professionals who wanted to understand their own vehicles better. They respected my knowledge and valued my experience. One of those students was Amanda, the department administrator who sat in on my first class. She was smart, kind, and looked at me with genuine admiration when I explained complex engine problems. "You have a gift for teaching," she told me after class one evening. "You make complicated things easy to understand." We started having coffee after class, then dinners on weekends. Unlike Natalie, Amanda never made me feel like my job was something to apologize for. She was impressed by my business acumen and fascinated by the problems I solved daily. One year after my engagement ended, I heard through mutual friends that Natalie and Craig had broken up. Apparently, he had been offered a position at a prestigious New York firm and did not want a long-distance complication. She tried calling me several times, but I never answered. By then, my life had completely transformed. My auto shop was thriving. I had expanded to include a training program for disadvantaged youth interested in learning a trade. Amanda and I were dating seriously, building a relationship based on mutual respect and genuine compatibility. When I think back to those painful days after discovering Natalie's betrayal, I am grateful for the lessons learned. I discovered that true worth is not measured by degrees or job titles, but by integrity and how you treat others. I learned that the right person will value you for exactly who you are, not who they want you to be. Most importantly, I realized that walking away from something wrong, even when it hurts, creates space for something right to enter your life. Looking back on everything now, I can honestly say that night when Natalie suggested an open relationship was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Not because it did not hurt. It did terribly. But because it forced me to stand up for my own worth. 2 years have passed since then. My auto repair business has expanded to 3 locations, and the apprenticeship program I started has helped 27 young people begin careers as certified mechanics. 6 of them now work for me. Amanda and I got married last spring in a simple ceremony by the lake. No fancy cocktail hours or elaborate displays, just honest vows and genuine love. When I put the ring on her finger, she whispered, "I am the luckiest woman in the world," and I knew she meant it. I occasionally see Natalie around town. She made partner at her firm, but looks perpetually stressed and unhappy. The last I heard, she was dating another lawyer, someone appropriate for her lifestyle. We nod politely when we pass each other, but never speak. Sometimes, I wonder if she ever regrets her choices or realizes what she lost. Not just me, but the chance at a life built on something more meaningful than status and appearances. The greatest lesson I learned from all this pain was about self-worth. No job, no matter how humble it might seem to others, should ever make you feel less than. A person who truly loves you will never measure your value by your occupation or income, but by your character and how you make them feel. I also learned the courage to walk away from relationships that diminish rather than elevate you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no to something familiar but toxic to make room for something better. Today I stand tall as a mechanic, a business owner, a teacher, and a husband. I am proud of the grease under my fingernails and the calluses on my hands because they represent honest work and a life lived with integrity. If my story resonates with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share your own experiences in the comments about times you had to choose between a relationship and your self-respect. What did you choose, and how did it change your life? Remember that your worth is never determined by someone else's opinion of you, but by how true you stay to yourself and your values. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps someone who might be struggling with similar challenges right now.